A very warm welcome, very good morning, and this is very difficult to handle. Let me try. But Aditi, it was a pleasure hearing you. Many good things which I basically loved. Think listening about the Gen X, how they are looking at experiences, listening about how the market is very bullish uh, across what is happening around the globe, but India still remains as a sweet spot. What else we can ask for? We are here. Barring the smoke, I think I have 20 minutes. We are in a safe room, uh, and Diwali is around the corner, so I hope I can excite you enough. I am Ashwani Narang and I take care of the spend management business at SAP. That's what I do for a living. Inflation going up, not going up, economy going up, maybe staying stable, or probably there's a 0.5% gap between ICRA and what the monetary funds are talking. Whatever the case may be, you need to do one thing very efficiently, and that's going to be spend management. That's what we do. You talk about cost savings because you are coming more from a CFO fraternity. That is right there on the table. Very important thing, and I believe the management is after your life to make sure cost savings are there. We get you that. We are also looking at probably having sustainable supply chains. I think Aditi talked about it. It's shifting, and this morning there was this news feed which came in about the Panama, that the ships are going to be stuck because of El Nino effect. There will be dryness in the sea, and therefore a lot of ships are going to get stuck. So when you go back, probably after a week, you will start to get some ripple effects that the material is not reaching. Therefore, the outputs are hurt, if I may say so. Or probably if you're looking at your supply chains and your suppliers are telling you that we need help in terms of early payments. Or let's say, if I even pose a question back to you, you are almost a cost center on finance, but how about we make you a profit center? Can you also save money on your own without taking help, let's say, from somebody like procurement, by becoming a profit center on the finance side of it, by doing dynamic discounting or supply chain financing, if I may say so, to go back to your management and say, here is 300 crore rupees on the table for the next 6 months. You want to acquire a company, launch a new product, I leave it to you, but this is what I've done for you. Or for that matter, what I like and loved was number of hotels, they're going to add up. Number of airlines, they're buying more planes. So one thing is absolutely clear on the cards. We are going to travel, whether it is for leisure or it is for office or to conferences like these. We are going to travel. And when we are going to travel, we would actually need to ensure from a CFO fraternity that the users are getting those experiences, which is good, consumer grade. And of course, it is compliant. And of course, it is as per the policy, maybe government regulations. And therefore, the whole point is, it's very painful. So therefore, the whole point is, let me get to the flip side of it. Can we do better on the travel and expense side of it? And when I say that, we are actually the pioneers or the innovators or the first company on the face of the earth to start with getting the whole travel and expense experience onto one platform. And we call that as Concur. I'm very happy to tell you that we command 50% market share out there in the market. That's the recent IDC report. So many of you in the room, or let's say your peer group out there, not only in India, but globally, you would have touched a Concur app sometime or the other. That's how penetrated we are in the market. So when I look at this, I wanted to give you a warm welcome. Thank you very much for coming. And one thing which is staggering, and I believe Aditi did talk about it a little, what has happened pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. You'll be happy to hear, for all good reasons, that we have crossed all the levels of pre-pandemic 6 months ago by giving a growth on the travel side of it and the expense side of it as well. So we did 192 million expense reports globally. And I am very happy to tell you that SAP itself as a company accounted in that as well, because we do 2 billion of our spend on the platform. And we put 6 billion of investment in the form of an R&D in creating these products. My good friend Sri, he's going to talk about some generative cool stuff, generative AI, how that's going to help you, going forward. Can I actually write a text and say, just give me a report, and the system can give me a report? Well, it's going to be possible now, and we're going to look at it. I'm going to not steal your thunder, but leave it to you. There are 43 million travel transactions globally. Again, if you look at it, that's up by 110% year on year. So I'm happy to announce that travel and expenses very much back in business. It's the need of the hour. And I think with globalization taking place, or let's say Indian companies going abroad, this phenomenon is going to go and get expanded. So moving from here, so what is important is to understand what is the current landscape, and what kind of priorities are we looking at. And there are a few important stats which we all need to know. So what are the CFOs, let's say, are thinking in terms of top priorities for the next year? And from a travel and expense standpoint, like I said, 72% are looking at improving employee experience. Now, if you tell me that I go on a travel portal, or let's say if I want to buy something from an Amazon or a Flipkart, I get my invoice immediately. Or let's say I can scan and probably know where are the products. Why can't the same thing happen inside my organization if it is not happening today? And how can we make it consumer grade? Very easy. And therefore 72% employees are looking at employee experience. And let me give you a good stat. There was a recent report which said nowadays 30% of Gen X people, so to say, do not like to work in a company which is age old in technology, because then there's a lot of paper flying out. Probably people are more conscious, I don't want to print, and of course they want everything on their mobile phone. So if you're looking for talent also, this is going to sink in very, very quickly. People do not like getting onto systems and doing it anymore. There's 60% improving sustainability and resiliency. I think right on top, very, very important. And again, Debashish, one of my good friends, he's going to talk about sustainability today, how we are bringing sustainability into our own solutions. While the company is looking at certain targets, can you go to your CEO today and say, here is my individual sustainability target for the organization, and here is the company-wide sustainability target. So what am I contributing personally is something I would look at. And that's what we do very effectively at SAP. Now, keeping certain things in mind, you are also growing and you want scalability. Your business needs to grow. And therefore, Concur goes beyond the boundaries of India for sure. And we are like I said, we are the largest platform globally. And what becomes important is, if you look at all of this, you need to have a policy in place. And when I have a policy in place, there are certain important aspects which I need to look into, which is I need to understand my stakeholders. Who are they? How do I make it easy for them? Thinking outside the box, reimagine your payment methods. We did talk about the economy, how it is going to get shaped. And I was staggered by a number, 10 billion. 10 billion is a number I saw a month ago. That is the number of UPI transactions India did in a month in August 2023. That is amounting to 4.75 lakh crores, close to 300 billion. What I basically mean here is the UPI is growing. Is your company getting equipped now to actually have expenses from your employees, which are now getting linked to UPI, and then you're settling score with your suppliers or your providers with the help of UPI? but not getting into a payment gateway. Is this possible? And that's where I think we again have something which you're going to talk about on UPI. What are we doing? Can you now settle your claims with the help of UPI, making it easier for CFOs? You're not wasting more time on creating those payment gateway transactions. So it's easier. And finally, I would say considering leveraging your purchase request, which is more towards how can I have a very easy process across certain tail spend. How is that going to happen? And when I talk about this, communication becomes very important within your organization, with your management. And I totally love the next slide, which basically talks about a question which every one of us asks. And I like the one on the right very well, which says, can I expense beverages into my company's account? Because then I'm going for a dinner with my colleagues, or it's a customer party. I do not know, but then I want to understand. And if yes, what's the limit? And you are the people who set all of it up. And then you can actually tell your employees, you know what, you've overaged by 10%. So I'm not going to reimburse this amount back to you. And that becomes a problem for me. So the other thing could be, how many bags can I check? And then you say, you know what, you're allowed one. You need to pay for the second yourself. So all these would come in, and then it kind of becomes difficult for us as an employee, if I may say so, to understand, can the system guide me? And together, we basically call that I have a policy boss. You go and read this document, and then it's going to happen for you. Now, at SAP, what we have done, we have captured all of this in something called as Travel Hub. So before you start or plan your travel, how basically the policy can walk you through itself. And then probably you're planning for travel, you book your travel, you continue your travel, you come back and you submit your receipts and make sure that the employees have a wonderful experience, which is smooth and good as well. And to make it more interactive and probably understand more how we do it at SAP, or let's say with other customers, let me now invite probably my good friend, my partner in crime, Sumedha, on the stage. A big round of applause if you can, please. How are you doing today, Sumedha?
Very well. All great things are happening.
Super. So that's good. So Sumedha, why don't you tell something about how we do it at SAP, and then how we have made it easy probably for other customers. What is this in-app guidance, just-in-time messaging? How does it happen?
Absolutely. So Ashwini, getting our money back as an employee, it has to be hassle-free, and it has to be as quick as possible. And employee reimbursement is very close to the heart of any employee, right? You want your money back. So what we have done is that, so there are a couple of things. I would like to first talk about how can we make it very seamless and an enjoyable experience for your employees. So number one is that employees are always very scared that they should not be doing something which is outside of the company policy. So how do we make sure that we are communicating the policy very effectively to our employees, and so that they don't have to make too much of effort to get to learn your policy? So what we've done is that within the app, so as you can see here, this says get assistance. We've got something called as WalkMe, which is a partner with whom we have integrated. So what WalkMe does is it literally walks your employee through the overall employee expense submission process, so that they don't have to think about it. It's very intuitive. And this other thing which we have done is that the entire policy can be uploaded on Concur's site. Ashwini had just shown a slide which had the overall policy document. So you can upload your policy document, you can have the FAQs, and employees can just go through that instead of asking somebody that how do I do this, do that, etc. So that's what I meant.
No, that's good. So essentially, you're saying that if we get into the Concur system, the system itself would tell me what could be a violation to a policy, what
Absolutely.
could be something they should follow while they're traveling. Now, that's brilliant. And one more thing, which I found, interesting was when I traveled for the first time after joining SAP and I started using my Concur app, I wanted to relive that. And probably let's try and give a sneak peek of how it happens, the whole life cycle of a travel and then expense and then probably petty cash. And CFOs are worried about auditability. CFOs are worried about compliance. And I believe Aditi also talked about that. If that doesn't happen, and finally, once everything is through, you also want a report which is asked by the management. You might want it in your own format. You might want it the way you would like to see it, or probably from the system, if we can have some generative AI stuff to present a report back to you very quickly. Now, if that happens, and I take that sneak peek very quickly. So preparing for a trip, and I completely was blown away by looking at this. And I do not know how, important that would be to you, being a woman, than to me, being a man. But safety is very important for all of us.
Absolutely.
So what I love about this is, while I'm preparing for a trip, have you ever thought that, let's say I'm going to Budapest or I'm going to lately at Vienna, yeah? So have you ever thought the place where you're going to stay, is this safe? Before booking. We understand there's a policy. We say these are the empaneled hotels, these are the empaneled places where you can probably go and stay. But safety norms keeps changing. There could be an unrest. There could be a strike. There might be some construction going on, and therefore maybe crime has picked up. Or for whatever reason, have you ever tried looking into the safety aspect before even you book your trip? And that's where we come out with, and I totally love this feature, that this is going to tell you before you get into a hotel or a place, is this place safe enough for you? And I believe this is one of the paramount importance when it comes to safety of your own employee or your own self, for that matter, for the management. So I totally love this feature. So while preparing for a trip, I knew in this area I should not go and stay. In this area, probably this is considered safe. And if you want to look at women's safety, I get a rating as well. How do we get, probably we are going to get into that later, but let's say now I'm booking a trip. So before I started, I looked at certain things. Then I planned to book a trip, and I was lucky enough to be in Spend Connect this year, 2 months ago in Vienna, and I believe you were playing a video in the beginning. If you had a look at it. So from next time onwards, and that's the travel experience, the new travel experience, so to say, which is coming up. I believe we are probably a year away from it in India.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's launched in US
Yes.
and Europe. It's already live, and the customers have started using. Now, what it does is basically the location which you are traveling to. For example, your office is in San Francisco. You just need to put that location in, and the system will guide you altogether to say, this is the nearest airport. These are the nearest hotels. This hotel has pharmacies by their side, etc., etc. And I believe that's what we are talking about. What is the cool generative AI stuff or other things, Sumedha, which is coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. So recently we concluded our largest tech event, which is called as TechEd. So imagine that I was, supposed to travel for TechEd, and I just, sort of talk to the application and say that I'm supposed to travel for TechEd on so and so date. And the generative AI should be able to sort of, should be able to think that, okay, if you need to travel on this date, then the travel time from Delhi to Bangalore is 3 hours, which means I can't travel on the same day, which means probably I need to sort of reach the location a day earlier. And the hotel and the generative AI will sort of search that, okay, this is the location for the event. So I possibly should stay very close to the event site. So, it sort of looks into all the data and it'll then allow you to sort of, book the trip and, share all of these options with you. And so that the application is pretty much doing all the work, for you. You do not even have to sort of do anything.
So literally a trip which is managed by our app.
Absolutely.
And I don't actually look into it. It is basically suggesting a lot of inputs, giving.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. I mean, that's the experience which is going to come up. Wherein we don't search for things, the system will tell me. So let's say I booked my trip, and now I'm in the trip, and then of course, I realize this happens with all of us. And 90% of the times, you would try and ask certain things which are not a part of your policy. For example, I don't like this hotel in this area. Can I book another hotel which might not be in panel? At the end of the day, you want everything to flow in to your system, and that is where it is getting connected with SAP Concur. And whether it is an Ola cab which you're taking in India, or it's an Uber you're taking in US or in Europe, all of those receipts by default would get accounted into your expense sheet. Before you land, after finishing your trip, you will have it, your expense will be filed automatically. Okay, that's the experience we're looking at. So now, let's say I'm in the trip, and during the trip, then probably I'm looking at certain things, say, because I'm driving a car, where is the nearest petrol pump? How do I find it out? Will this help me?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As you can see, neighborhood safety scores, you already talked about it, hospitals, pharmacy, the nearest petrol pump, all of that is going to, be part of the suggestions.
So basically, the app is so consumerized that I don't need to get onto web literally
Exactly.
to look at certain things. It'll just list all those important things near to my location. Okay,
So no more outside of the app, Google searches, what do I do, how do I do, and when do I do it, basically.
That's pretty cool. So the other thing which I found was, if before booking my trip, I found out that this area is safe. But during the trip, if something happens, how do you take care of that?
So actually I would like to share a story. Like a couple of years back, we actually used to have a sales kickoff at Seattle. And so we were staying at Seattle, and there are like a lot of these shootings which keep happening in US. So literally there was a shooting which happened just like maybe a kilometer away from where the event location was. And a lot of us were also staying at that place. So immediately I received a message on my mobile saying that it was like almost like immediate that, a shooting has happened, and because the app knew where I was staying, where I was traveling to, and I was asked to, to sort of retreat back to my hotel room or take like a shelter or something like that.
Wow.
So this is the integration with International SOS, which is again one of our partners, and they can give you all the safety and security information.
That's
and
very
how cool is
impressive.
that?
That is very impressive. So essentially, before I book my travel, I know where to go. But even if I'm staying somewhere and there's some mishappening, at least the system will tell me that I should take shelter because there is a problem outside. Now that's very nice. So that's again bringing the employee safety right at the top, which is very important. And now let's say I have finished my trip. I'm coming back home. I need to go to office also. Before I could attend to important emails, being an employee, I also think that I need to file my expenses. Maybe my EA does it for me. Maybe I do it myself. How do I make it easier? And this is what I wanted to understand. To make it easier, how can I utilize a corporate card? Does the Concur mobile app help me? What is this opt-in to e-receipts? How does that happen?
Absolutely. So Ashwini, as you're aware, Concur's vision has always been to that, an expense report should basically, write itself. So with generative AI, it's going to take it to a different level or a different, a notch or many notches higher. So, but what corporate credit card integration or what e-receipts do is it basically lets that vision come to life. Because the moment you have a corporate card integrated with Concur, so anything you spend through your corporate credit card, it'll automatically flow into Concur, and you can have your policies built onto it. You can blacklist merchants, certain categories. So it's basically doing all the audit work for you. And if you have also opted in for e-receipts, what it means is, let's say Uber is one of the partners with whom we have an e-receipt integration. So the moment you will spend your company money on Uber, then again the receipt will automatically come from Uber and sit on Concur platform. So it is going to automatically get reconciled. Let's say if the employee was using a corporate card and e-receipt, it's going to get automatically reconciled, and you don't even have to pretty much do a human audit on those kind of receipts.
And that happens with hotels also?
Yes, with hotels who are our partners, and we are sort of adding our partners to this network almost on a daily, monthly, weekly basis.
So essentially, before I land, I
Yeah.
have my expense report ready. I don't need to go and give my bills, even if I
Exactly.
lose them, to my EA or do it myself to basically say, oh, you know what, I lost that receipt. But I have all of it already in my expense report, which is created. I just need to check it and press the button
Absolutely.
and say submit.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So one more thing, which bothers me, and I believe is a question for all of the CFOs apparently, which is very important. How do I do the audit? And when I do the audit, how do you help me? Do you have a service around that? That's point number one. Point number two, uh, how much time are you going to save for me so I can be more productive on logical topics, more strategic rather than being very technical? So what are those audit rules and how can we build them in very quickly?
Sure. So what we have generally, seen with audit is that when initially, customers move from a manual or a semi-automated system to Concur, they want to bring in all of their policies, all the rules and checks onto Concur because maybe earlier it wasn't possible. And now it is possible as of today. But what that does is that impacts your user experience because there are just too many checks, too many rules, and employees feel that they are literally being, very constricted, right? And that's what we do not want to do. We need to make sure that it is a very balanced approach. What we have, just because something is not possible, it is not necessary that we need to bring or put in all of those rules in the system. So number one is to rethink on the rules. That is why something is required. Maybe something is literally serving no purpose for you. So we just need to take those out of the equation. And once you are sort of getting onboarded to this journey, that's a good time to rethink about all of your policies and the rules. You can do it. I mean, most of the customers do it once they have maybe been with us for 2 years or so because they have become mature. And they definitely do it at that point in time as well. So it's consider the why, balance user experience with compliance, and the third is one size does not fit all. It may vary from industry to industry, from one customer to the other customer. And we have quite a few services which are built towards audit. You can outsource your audit function completely to us, or you can also use, which is a combination of human and system-led or AI-led audit. So these options are available to you as of today.
So how much leakage would you have separated or how much money you would have saved for a company, maybe in India or globally, when they get into the audit services with us? Is there a benefit for the customers?
Many. So, frankly, with respect to throwing numbers, it's very close to the chest of customers because nobody would want to share that how much leakage was happening. But in closed rooms, many customers have come up to us and told us the quantum of leakage or even misappropriation which was happening within their organization. In a lot of the cases, it has also been close to 1% of their overall.
Wow.
Yes, 1%.
So that's like almost 5, 6, 7, 10 times the ROI.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's
Absolutely.
brilliant. No, that's great to hear. And I think the tail spend also bothers me sometimes, because if I'm traveling, or let's say if you are from a pharma company, you might have doctors, who would be going on a trip, and you would have to facilitate the whole thing. Or let's say if you are somebody who's doing a lot of events, or let's say there are promotions which are happening on Diwali. So these are a lot of tail spends which keep coming back to me. Now, if I amalgamate all of this, I see a lot of things which we can do. An expense, Concur expense is one of the. What is this sponsored guest functionality? Can you please throw some light?
Yeah, absolutely. Which means that, let's say if you are a pharma company and you would have essentially doctors or maybe other people attend your events. So that is a sponsored guest functionality where the user, you will create a profile for maybe those, guests who travel frequently with you. And they can also themselves, book their own travel, and all the policy checks, etc., will be applied on top of it.
Okay, that's brilliant. So basically, we give them the access as well onto the system for a limited period,
Exactly.
in close boundaries, to actually be a part of the
Absolutely.
event, be my guest, basically, and then that's an experience they also get. Okay,
Absolutely.
that's
and
brilliant.
it could also be one of your contracted workers in some of the cases. Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, perfect. So I think the audit is done, and then probably I'm worried about compliance as well. So that's an area again where the CFOs are pretty finicky. I would say they have to be also, because that's very important that we are compliant with our policies. Now there is tactical and strategic, whether we go line by line or the CFO would like to see an overall analysis. How to uncover this. Now there's a balance which we need to find between internal policies and government regulations. How does that happen?
Yeah. So we cannot do away with not being compliant to government regulations. That is like a given. So any solution. So what we do is that any kind of government regulation is already sort of inbuilt, which is related to your travel and expenses. And even in this ever-changing environment, we continuously work to bring in all of those immediately onto the solution. The last one was GDPR, which was like a global change, right? And the other one is, making sure that we are also adhering to the internal policies. So for all the controllers in the room, you know how difficult that is. So that is where, the system is, you are able to build in all the policy checks within the system. So your accounts payable team can either, look at everything line by line, which is more like a tactical approach, or it is to be more strategic, wherein you are holistically looking at the spend and using all the technologies which are, today available to you.
That's perfect. So you're saying if it is in US or India or Brazil, we keep on updating our own product to make sure they are compliant with the government norms. Okay, that's amazing. And probably the last thing I would love to touch upon is the balance between human and technology. We can't be crude. People can do mistakes, and therefore the technology should be there as a complementary effect, not probably policing the people out there. So I would keep that balance. And probably the last thing I'm going to get down to, when everything is done, I need my report. So data, very, very important. And I love this quote by somebody. It can be you or me. Without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So it doesn't matter. You probably would say something, scoot out, because there's no data. It doesn't help me. And therefore, data becomes very important. So I touched on sustainability in the beginning, and I think I found this upcoming, I believe next quarter, which is going to tell me my sustainability footprint inside my organization, for an individual, for a plant, for a company, for a P&L code and whatnot, the way you want to look at it. How is that going to happen?
Absolutely. So this is what is sort of available right now, but what is very important for the CFOs we are talking to on a daily basis is how do they report on these sustainability numbers, because all of your investors are asking for it, right? And even consumers, they do not want to buy from companies who are not following these sustainable practice. And we were talking to one of the CFOs of a very large organization. The CFO told us that it took them 2.5 months to build a sustainability report as part of the annual report. So with Concur, since this accounts to your local conveyance, your travel, and a lot of these, carbon, so all the reporting is going to be readily available. And right now it's available for air. We're also going to come up with ground, travel option, that's your local conveyance and things like that. So at a click, you can just sort of embed that in your annual report, and that's it.
That is perfect. So let me say by doing it, probably the last part of it. What if they want the report in their own format? They don't want to use your format. Is this possible from the system?
Absolutely. So see, as you know, Ashwini, if I'm used to looking at a report in a certain way, I want that report to look the very certain way, irrespective of the solution change or the application change, whatever has happened. So we can make it possible. So reporting in your format, we can do it for you. Absolutely.
That's brilliant. I mean, if I sum it up, I basically started on what are the pressing priorities, and then we just lived a life cycle of how you're going to do it on Concur, seamlessly integrated with your backend systems, and let's say with intra-suite integration as well, and finally coming out with the auditability, compliance, and the reporting part of it. I can get to my vision, which is very, very important, and this is what we are doing for a living. And we have a vision statement, a mission statement, and we also have an outcome which we are looking at. We want to make sure that the travel and expense experience, so to say, becomes self-explanatory. It manages itself. I actually don't need to do anything in the whole thing. The mission is basically making it more intelligent, predictive, connected with an ecosystem, which keeps you safe as well. And the outcome, of course, is going to be a sustainable future, which is going to matter. So my 2 cents on this is, I have used the Concur app myself. We use it on a regular basis. And the last time, I don't know if I have my good friend Anish here. Last time we were landing, and by the time I opened my phone, I got to see, before the air hostess could announce, I got to see my bag will be on belt number 3. Or let's say this is going to be the gate number which I'm going to look at. And that makes it easy for a person. And that's what I call consumerism. And I say this is a journey which is going to continue. So thank you very much for the patient hearing. I hope we were useful enough, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.